of people.
नहीं काम कर रहा है
I
इसके
am
लिए बोल रहा हूँ.
convinced that the private sector as well realizes that exploiting, polluting, and
कौन सी
even
देखना है?
destroying nature will not pay dividends
कुछ ना
in
दिया
the
गया है.
medium term. Quite simply, without a
भाई
natural
टेंशन
environment,
ये है.
we humans no longer
ना
have a
खुद ब
basis
खुद
for
टेंशन
survival,
लेके लिए.
let alone for economic activity. This global challenge, revolution, the international community adopted the Paris Agreement to mitigate climate change. Now, we want to adopt an ambitious framework
कौन सी
to
देखना है
stop
तो
the
ये
loss of biodiversity.
केस का नाम
We need strict, mandatory, and accessible global rules. Switzerland fully endorses the call of the High Ambition Coalition for Nature and People to protect 30% of our planet's surface on land
पेपर तो
and
चाहिए
on
था
sea
उसमें कुछ
for
देगा थोड़ी.
biodiversity by 2030.
देख
In
रहे हैं
this
का है ना
context,
टेंशन ले रहे हैं
Switzerland
आप
has
अभी एकदम
decided
भाग जाइएगा
to
का
enhance
है ना
the
टाइम जी
protection
हम
of
देख
its
रहे हैं
soil.
आप टेंशन
By
मत लीजिए हम आपको कॉपी
2050,
निकाल के दे देंगे
we
और कुछ
intend to stop
तो
the
फिर
spread of settlements. In other
खबर
words,
कीजिए एकदम
we
अभी ना
have
भाग रहे
fixed
हैं
a
ये
net
कहीं भाग
zero
नहीं रहा
goal for land use
हम
change.
निकाल के देंगे
Next year,
और
we will
काम में
adopt
डिस्टर्ब
a
कर
new
देते
global
हैं
framework and
टेंशन
economy.
तो ये तो बोल रहे हैं
I am
बिना टेंशन
confident
के तो
that
आइएगा नहीं
both to conserve natural
टेंशन में कब
ecosystems
आइएगा
and to sustainably manage
होता होगा
our use of the environment
अरे
and
यार
curb
विपत्ति में
pollution.
हर आदमी किसी को सहारा
We have to work hard
वन
to
सेकंड
deliver
विपत्ति
CBD's 2050 vision of living in harmony with nature. But this is in the interest of us all.
टेंशन हमको भी है अभी आपकी तो थोड़ी
I thank the President of the Swiss Confederation for the statement just made. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Jordan to introduce the pre-recorded
टेंशन
statement.
कैसे लेके झेलना बहुत कुछ हम झेलना हम समझ रहे हैं
Mr. President, I have the great honor to introduce the Freedom of Jordan. I thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Your Excellencies, dear friends, a pleasure to join you for this important meeting on an urgent issue that literally concerns the future of our world and all life in it. We have been talking about sustainable development, climate change, and safeguarding the environment for decades, but unfortunately have little to show for it on the ground. We have not stuck to the 2016 Paris Agreement to strengthen the global response to climate change, nor have we met its goals to prevent a global
कल मिटाया है
rise.
इसी
Nature itself
यही
is
सब
the
लगा
sustainability for humanity's very existence. No
उसमें
country
कौन
is
सी
more
बदलते
aware
रहेगा
of the
एक बार
dangers of
देखो
climate shifts than Jordan,
अगर आप
the second
बताइएगा तो हम
water
बता
poorest country in
कुछ
the
ना
world.
होगा
To help address this crisis, over the last 2 years, Jordan has prepared an actionable solution that will be proposed to the UNGA, and with all your help, can make a difference. We are attempting by proposing a charter that protects and extends the legal right to exist to selected ecosystems and all species
पेपर आपको दिया था
and food, to advance
कॉपी
the
दिया था
causes
आपको
of preserving
तो
enough
कॉपी है
of
कहाँ
nature for
लाया
human
तो कुछ ना
civilization
होगा
to continue
तो लाइएगा उसमें रिकॉर्ड
and
होगा नहीं
empower the world's environmental activists
उसमें
and
रिकॉर्ड
others
होगा
to
मेरे
take
पास साला
legal
कहाँ
action
पे
on
इतना
behalf
दिन
of
कब दिन
nature's
निकाला
rights.
हमको इतना दिन
अरे
We
वही
owe this to the future generations.
ना लिखा
यहाँ पे
COVID-19
कोई
has
रिकॉर्ड
taught
रहेगा
us
उसका तब ना मेरे
all
पास
this.
रिकॉर्ड नहीं है
We
इसीलिए
cannot keep neglecting nature and expect no
कोई केस
consequences.
का ऐसा कुछ
At
रिकॉर्ड
no
नहीं
time
देख रहे हैं
has
इसलिए पेपर
practical,
लाइएगा तो उसे
principled
देख के
global
निकाल
action
देंगे
been needed more than at present to save our environment. Young activists everywhere are urging us to take action. We must simply not get in their way. We must act. Our world is a gift, not for the people of one place and time, but for all generations and all life. God says in the Quran, there is no creature that crawls upon the earth, nor bird that flies with its wings, but that they are communities like yourselves. Let us together protect these communities, and in so doing, protect ourselves. Thank you.
I thank the King of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan for the statement just made. I now invite the hereditary prince and acting head of state of the Principality of Liechtenstein to deliver a pre-recorded statement.
Mr. President, Secretary General, the stress on our planet continues to increase with far-reaching consequences. This year's forest fires in the Amazonas are more devastating than ever, destroying vast parts of the planet's biodiversity vault. In our part of the world, the loss in biomass of insects that are so important for human and animal food chain reaches staggering proportions. Climate change is well known to further exacerbate already negative trends. While public awareness is growing, our collective response fails to correspond to the challenges at hand. Today's summit can hopefully help to change the dynamic. Preserving biodiversity belongs in the long-term strategic planning of governments. In Liechtenstein, identified an increasing threat to our biodiversity that we need to treat as high priority in our efforts to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. This is not just an environmental necessity, it is also of great importance for the success of biotechnology. And ultimately, this is a question of intergenerational justice. We could lose 1 million species within decades as a result of human action. Such a world would be incomparable to today. I support the Secretary General's call for transformative change. We must do more and do better to protect our nature. Our production and consumption patterns must be guided by sustainability. In Liechtenstein, we have undergone a rapid change from a rural economy to an industrialized and technology-driven nation. I believe that we can be equally efficient in transforming our relationship to nature with the right knowledge, proper technology, and the correct values. Liechtenstein is committed to this cause in our own country, in cooperation with our neighbors, and at the United Nations. I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the hereditary prince and acting head of state of the Principality of Liechtenstein for the statement just made. I now invite the Federal President of the Republic of Austria to deliver a pre-recorded statement.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. There are many success stories about nature and biodiversity protection in Austria. Almost a third of our national territory is protected under different categories. 6 outstanding national parks represent the variety of the Austrian landscapes and wildlife. However, as everywhere in the world, we feel the loss of biodiversity and natural habitats, particularly in vulnerable alpine regions and wetlands. To counteract this, the Austrian government has initiated an inclusive process, the Biodiversity Dialogue 2030, aimed at setting up a new biodiversity strategy for post-2020. Its key objective is to establish biodiversity protection as an overall task and duty of our society. Simply because biodiversity is not only about nature protection, it is about protecting ourselves. Austria is therefore strongly committed to the full and coherent implementation of the Convention on Biological Diversity and its 2 protocols. As member of the European Union, we support the EU's new biodiversity strategy 2030, a central element of the European Green Deal. Biodiversity is also our strong ally in our joint fight against our greatest global threat, the climate crisis. The two issues are intrinsically linked. We will not be able to win
खाली
the
यही
fight
दिए
against
हुए
the climate
5
crisis
3 2022
without
में
an
एक्टिविटी
intact and healthy environment.
यानी सुनवाई
We have arrived at an enormously important
और कुछ
crossroads
क्या
for many
कुछ नहीं
reasons.
इसमें काज है
Never before have our
उतना
world's
डिटेल्स दे देगा तो तू
vulnerabilities
वकीले ना
and
करे सब ऑनलाइन
inequalities
देखता रहे
been revealed so
केस का
startlingly
डिटेल्स है कौन
in
सा
the
जज के पास है
COVID-19
कितना नंबर है यही सब
pandemic.
और क्या
Never before could we feel, especially during the
कौन सी
lockdown,
तो कॉपी में
how important nature
ई
is for
कॉपी
our
भाई
well-being
ये तो
and
काला
health.
निकाले वही चीज हुआ है
Never before have we possessed such overwhelming scientific evidence on the state of nature and biodiversity and the drivers of its loss. But for the first time in our history, we have real opportunities to change the game, to make an important step towards transforming our economies, our policies, our societies. Let's not bring back business as usual after the pandemic. Let's aim for real change.
I thank the Federal President of the Republic of Austria for the statement just made. I now invite the President of the State of Israel to deliver a pre-recorded statement.
Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, President of the General Assembly, Vulkan Muskil, Excellencies, dear guests, thank you. Thank you so much for this important summit. The State of Israel lies at the crossroads of three continents. We are a meeting place, not only for cultures and peoples, but for over 500 million birds flying from Europe to Africa each year. We are a small country, but we are home to many unique natural wonders. Israeli startups are changing the way the world grows its food, produces its energy, and make its water safe,
अच्छा ये
safe
बताइए
to drink. At the same time, we also face many challenges in Israel, including threats to our
वकील है तो
open
बेल हुआ
space
पहले ही
and
बताइए
our
अभी चीज तो उस
wild
दिन
life.
पूछ रहे थे तो
The
बताया नहीं
state of Israel is deeply committed
ना हुआ तो
to
जाइएगा
working
तो
with
अरेस्ट
the
कर
United
देंगे
Nations and with
सीधा
all
अरेस्ट
nations
करेंगे
to protect
वापस ना आइए
biodiversity. We are at a critical moment.
ऐसा दिया
In these efforts, it is time urgent action. The coronavirus has shown that humanity is able to change its behavior
100%.
when we understand the needs. As the nations of the world plan the recovery from COVID, we have our opportunity to change course. As part of our recovery plan in Israel, we are focusing on clean energy, clean air, and restoring natural spaces.
बेल
These
टूट गया
efforts
जी
will be
हाँ
good
टूट
not
गया तो
only
वही तो
for
अरेस्ट हूँ
nature, but for
जाइएगा
our
अरेस्ट
economy
करेंगे
as well. Nature-based solutions to regional challenges are
यही
creating
नहीं चाहिए
new
पूरा
partnership
पूरा
between
निकालिए
Israel
पूरा
and
का
our
निकलेगा तो लग रहा है
Palestinian neighbors and cousins, and with Jordan. They are creating new bonds of trust and cooperation. We plan all the time to begin similar projects with the United Arab Emirates, the Kingdom of
इसे
Bahrain,
ब्रेक पड़ा क्या
and
पड़ा
with our countries in the Middle East.
डेट है ना ये
Dear
पड़ा था
friends,
तो
nature
बेटा है
and
ना
the
उसमें तो वही चीज है और
knows
का
no border. They
उसको
इसमें
रख
नहीं
के
है।
क्या
we
कीजिएगा
need to
उसको रख के क्या करना है
just
डेटा
as
मालूम है
we
बस
must
उसके अलावा कुछ है
work
इसमें
together to defeat the coronavirus. We must work together
वही सब जो
to
10
save
से
nature. We
कौन
must
दस
overcome
रियल
the
जल
divisions of the past
अरे यही
so
बोला
that we
मैं कि
can
कौन
build
सा
a
जज
better
है
future
कितना
for
डेट
our
है
region
कब पढ़ा
and
है
for
यही
the
है और का
planet and for all of our children. And I would like once again to thank you very much for taking part in this convention. And I would like to bless you with the traditional blessing of the Jews at the beginning of the Jewish year, Shana Tova. Happy New Year to you, and God bless all of you. I thank the President of the State of Israel for the statement just made. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Sri Lanka to introduce the pre-recorded statement.
Mr. President, I have the honor to introduce the recorded statement to the Summit on Biodiversity by His Excellency Gotabaya Rajapaksa, President of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka. I thank you.
Mr. President, Mr. Secretary General, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, IBA. I am deeply honored to represent the people of Sri Lanka at this high-level summit on biodiversity. The concepts of biodiversity must be at the very core of the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. Despite the rapid decline seen in biodiversity globally over the recent decades, Sri Lanka is deeply committed to uphold the overarching spirit of the Convention on Biodiversity. There is a critical need for a transformation change in the relationship between nature and people and contemporary environmental governance. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, as a member of the Commonwealth of Nations, Sri Lanka endorsed the Commonwealth Blue Charter in 2018, and as such, we will champion the Commonwealth Blue Charter action on mangrove ecosystems and livelihoods. Further, the Colombo Declaration on Sustainable Nitrogen Management was adopted last year. We, as world leaders, must better manage nitrogen, ensuring the sustenance of humankind. Sri Lanka is home to two UNESCO natural heritage sites, the Central Highlands and the Singaraja Rainforest Reserve. We are also proud of our 6 sites recognized under the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands. Sri Lanka firmly stands committed to protect and sustainable manage these natural assets that contributes to our unique and rich biodiversity. We have been mindful of conserving ecosystems to the highest extent possible, even during the redesigning of cities and urban areas. The wetland parks that we have created in cities, especially in and around our capital city, Jawaharlal, are home to an array of plant and animal species, offering a mini rainforest experience within crowded cities. The ancient governance of Sri Lanka was built on the concept that the ruler is never the owner of the land. He is merely its caretaker on behalf of his countrymen and all living beings. This is the very principle that my government has adopted in our development agenda. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, as mere trustees of this planet and its resources, we must resolve to protect what is in our trust and pass it to future generations as best as we could. Thank you.
I thank the President of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka for the statement just made. I now invite the Sovereign Prince of Monaco to deliver a pre-recorded statement.
हाँ एक ही में रहता है 12 दिन 24 रहता था ना 20 रहता है
Mesdames et messieurs, ladies and gentlemen, heads of state and government, excellencies, dear friends. All the many and painful crises our world is enduring, that of biodiversity is without a doubt one of the least perceptible. It is nevertheless one of the most acute, as was confirmed in the first report of the IPBES last year. We are in the midst of the sixth extinction of humankind. We are responsible for it. This year alone, in the last 50 years alone, around 50% of the planet's vertebrates have disappeared. Thousands of species have become extinct. A third of the 90,500 of the species studied last year by the IUCN are now directly under threat. This phenomenon is not only measured in terms of loss of species, it's also measured in terms of harvest loss, drought, floods, and is measured in human tragedy. I won't talk here about the health consequences of this situation. Emerging illnesses are often, of course, the result of the fact that human beings have trampled on natural ecosystems. Everywhere across the globe, threats to biodiversity are some of the main perils that humankind will have to face in the decades to come. And yet, we only note very scant progress thus far, at a time when we're closing the decade that the United Nations has devoted to this matter. It is for this reason that we need to increase our efforts on all fronts. I wish to particularly touch upon marine biodiversity. This is one of the subjects that I believe is a priority, and which is so rarely understood to its full extent. Oceans often contain a wealth of biodiversity about which there is a great deal of ignorance, but this biodiversity is under threat. The IPBES estimates that 2/3 of our oceans are under threat. To preserve their biodiversity, we need to fight against climate change, which wreaks so much devastation in marine environments, and that was proved by the IPCC report we commissioned and which was published in Monaco last year. Climate change destroys habitats and disturbs ocean currents, and we need to fight against the corollary of climate change, that is ocean acidification, which is already damaging many species. And that has been demonstrated by many of the studies Monaco has conducted. We also need to eradicate plastic pollution by banning single-use plastics and promoting plastic recycling. We need to better preserve marine ecosystems by enlarging marine protected areas. We can but note that the minimum of 10% fixed by the CBD has not been reached in terms of area covered by MPAs. In the forthcoming conference in China, we'll need to fix more ambitious goals for both land and sea. It is for this reason that Monaco has joined the Global Ocean Alliance, whose goal is to have 30% of our oceans by the year 2030 with marine protected area status. And that should include Antarctica, that our ancestors in their wisdom devoted to the study of science. We also, with France and Tunisia, have joined the MedFund. This is an innovative mechanism designed to preserve and link up marine protected areas. Finally, I wish to draw your attention to the worrying situation of the coral reefs. Coral reefs should receive particular attention given their importance in their current situation. And this is the rationale behind the ICRI initiative devoted to coral reefs. We co-chair this initiative, and it aims to acknowledge the specific needs of the coral reefs within the global biodiversity framework. We're not simply here talking about preserving a few species, a few ecosystems, or even a few seas. It's a question of preserving our planet, our future, and our very lives. It is for this reason that it is so important to act without delay.
I thank the Sovereign Prince of Monaco for the statement just made. I now invite the President of the Republic of Kenya to deliver a pre-recorded statement.
देखिए एक मिनट मिला के ना उसको हटा दीजिए देखिए बता रहे हैं सुनिए कितना है 262 है ना हम इसको ठीक है याद रखिएगा 0 तक है आज इसको कितना हुआ 36 जोड़ेंगे
जुटावे ना
एक मिनट इसको 50 किया कितना हो गया
It gives me
कितना हो
great
गया
honor to participate in
आज
this
ये
summit
हटाया
this
कितना
year
माइनस
that marks the super year of
minus किया ना
biodiversity and nature.
50 करके
The year has provided
अभी
us
देखिए
with
कितना
a
हो गया
unique opportunity to get back on
अब
track
इसमें जो तौलेगी वो
on
वजन
both
होगा इसका वैल्यू जीरो
biodiversity and nature. The theme for the summit, therefore, urgent action on biodiversity for sustainable development
इतना काहे के लिए भर दिया काम कीजिए ना निकालने में
the
तकलीफ
challenges we face and the role we must collectively
अच्छा
play
बढ़ गया जी
बस
to
निकालिए जी
execute the
हाँ
global responsibility.
नहीं कहा कि होगा
Kenya, being
आपका
one
मशीन खराब है
मशीन
10
कैसे
mega
खराब होगा
diverse countries in the world
चला भी सब चीज तो नाप रहे थे
recognizes the
सही है
critical
कितना
role of
सही
biodiversity in supporting
देखिए
cultural,
ठीक से
economic,
हैं
environmental
ओ
needs,
वो बढ़ेगा ना
including
35 की तो है
sustainable.
अब है जी।
However,
अभी देखिए
these
बढ़ेगा
vital
कैसे बता रहे
resources are at the state of global emergency,
970
primarily
डिब्बा
because
का
of
वजन
human
कितना
activity.
था
Rates of biodiversity loss, habitat fragmentation, degradation, pollution, and species extinction, as well as disasters linked to climate and extreme weather, such as heat waves, droughts, floods, are causing mass destruction across the world. In the process, this mass destruction is compromising the primary safety nets that provide for life as well as livelihoods. It is therefore critical that the United Nations Human Settlement Program, UN Habitat, and the United Nations Environmental Program Unit, among other global bodies, such as the Convention of the International Trade on Endangered Species, are empowered to take up the challenges in a holistic manner. Mr. President, as a nature-based economy, Kenya in 2017 imposed a ban on single-use plastics, and later in 2018 imposed a moratorium on logging, which has resulted in enormous benefits for our environment. Furthermore, Kenya has sought fundamental action in the green and blue economy, premised on clean energy, increased forest cover, conservation, as well as the sustainable use of oceans.
अब देखिए चलो ठीक है
Importantly, I wish to note that with the support of the United Nations Environmental Program, Kenya is among the 92 countries that have submitted their sixth national response to the Convention on Biodiversity.
अरे 50 ग्राम कम लीजिए हो तो गया आपने करते रहिए
Progress, achievements made, and measures taken to address gaps in the implementation
ये सब
of the Aichi biodiversity target.
ले जाइए 4 दिन
In addition, in Kenya, we are committed to the development and full implementation of an ambitious and transformational post-2020 global biodiversity framework for the adoption of the 15th Conference of Parties to the UN Convention on Biological Diversity. This will be key to reaching the SDGs.
और कुछ
Informed
हाँ एक पैकेट में फाइन
best available science, research, as well as indigenous
आधा किलो
and
किलो
traditional knowledge.
रिफाइन ये है ले जाइए
In this regard, Mr. President, we call for urgent action
और
to halt and reverse the destruction of nature.
कौन बोला
This will accelerate the achievements of the Sustainable Development Goals
ले ले
and the biodiversity targets
हाँ पाँच किलो
required.
हैं
We must all work together, Mr. President, to scale the ambition. Partnership, cooperation,
और खड़ी है
Mr. President,
5 रुपए का
must build back better and
पहले
smarter.
लेके गए रखा हुआ मैंने ढा दिया
तो है ले किमें
तो
डाल
इसको खा लीजिए कम कर दीजिए
Rather, business unusual
50 ग्राम दीजिए 50
urgently deal with the vulnerabilities of our society,
बाकी
our economy, recovery.
₹5 रुपए
It must put us back on track,
कम कर दीजिएगा
हैं
50 ग्राम का कितना
between people and each other.
50 ग्राम का
I thank you all for your attention.
5 रुपया होंगे
I thank the President of the Republic of Kenya for the statement just
तो
made.
काहे ले ले
I now invite the President of the Republic of Slovenia to
और
deliver
चली
the
गई थी वहीं
recorded
खराब
statement.
President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the high rate of biodiversity decline represents a serious threat to life on our planet and undermines humanity. COVID-19 pandemic manifests a clear link between human health and health of ecosystems. The need to protect and restore our national habitat is even more urgent. The color of our post-pandemic world must be green and oriented towards sustainable production and consumption without overstepping planetary boundaries. Biodiversity conservation is beneficial. It safeguards global food security and contributes to climate change mitigation and adaptation. Slovenia is a land of forests and ample water resources. My country
पब्लिक जो कह रहा पब्लिक कह रहा है कि खराब है नहीं आ रहा अब हम उसको क्या जवाब दें
कितना दे रहे हैं इसका हो गया
देखो
हट हमें खाना मांगा तब फिर बनवा दूंगा
कितना
5 रुपए का दीजिए ना
This makes Slovenia a special guardian of biodiversity on a global level, committed to
वजन
nature.
इसको तो मछली को खिलावे ला रखा
Our determination to preserve gifts of nature
कौन वाला
has led
बोतल वाला
us to take concrete steps,
कलर वाला
such as introducing green and environmental actions, use of renewable energy sources, declaration of access to clean drinking water
बोला तो
as constitutional
10 रुपए का आपको हो जाएगा एक पाव
World Bee Day, proclaimed by the
5
United
रुपए का
Nations,
125 ग्राम हो गया
is Slovenia's initiative. I would like to thank you for your support. On 20th May, we raised awareness of the importance of pollinators for biodiversity and sustainable development. In the 21st century, security and prosperity will depend on how we manage global goods. The world is standing in front of an important opportunity to redefine people's relationship with nature. I would like to reaffirm Slovenia's and my personal commitment to stop an unprecedented rate of biodiversity loss and how climate change affects. Let us all become international leaders on biodiversity to protect humanity's most important life-supporting safety net. Thank you so much.
I thank the President of the Republic of Slovenia for the statement just made. I now invite the President of the Republic of South Africa to deliver a pre-recorded statement.
वही बोल रहे हैं 3 शॉट लेंगे तो छोटा आ जाएगा
Excellencies, distinguished
अच्छा
guests,
दिस टू दे ही
हां उतना मत दीजिए
COVID-19 pandemic has badly affected the ability of national economies to respond to challenges like environmental degradation and climate change. But even as we prioritize economic revival and reconstruction, we must maintain our collective commitment to environmental conservation. This is even more important
एक पैकेट
considering that strong linkages between environmental destruction and the emergence of new deadly diseases, devastating processes such as biodiversity loss, deforestation, the loss of farmland, animal habitat loss, and the consumption of wild species are creating conditions for infectious diseases that we will soon be unable to control. South Africa commits to working with the UN Environmental Programme in the development of tools to track the future emergence of zoonotic diseases. South Africa is the third most mega biodiverse country in the world, endowed with unique species and ecosystems found nowhere else on Earth. As a signatory to the Convention on Biological Diversity, we are working to conserve our biodiversity, promote its sustainable use, and ensure the benefits of the commercial use of genetic resources are fairly distributed. We have a biodiversity economy strategy that integrates the sustainable management of biodiversity with job and business creation opportunities. We have increased our territorial protected areas and our protected ocean space.
Oh yeah.
As nations of the world, we must appreciate the complex interdependence between nature, economic activity, and human development.
कितना हो गया आपका?
In pursuit of sustainable development, our recovery strategies can and should strike a balance between environmental and economic imperatives. We need a holistic approach to achieving Sustainable Development Goal 15 on halting biodiversity loss. As responsible global citizens, we need to change our behavior as well as our consumption patterns. And we should work to integrate approaches to improve conservation of species and ecosystems. We need to adopt sustainable land management practices and to restore degraded lands, to implement sustainable food production models, and to develop more climate-friendly agriculture. There needs to be a shift away from economic models that value growth for growth's sake towards a secular economy. We must engage with local communities, draw on traditional knowledge, as well as to promote the inclusion of women and indigenous populations in bioprospecting as well as other sectors. As we emerge from COVID-19 pandemic, not only must we raise the ambition of our biodiversity targets, we must also ensure that the recovery effort fosters greater and not less harmony with nature. Through improved awareness, through improved collaboration and collective determination, we can ensure that we build back both greener and better.
आपका निकलेगा
I
ये
thank the President of the Republic of South
निकालना
Africa
चाहिए
for
तो
the
निकल जाएगा
statement
मेरी बात
just made.
नहीं
I now invite the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to deliver a pre-recorded statement.
President of the General Assembly, Secretary General of the United Nations, Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, ladies and gentlemen, I am honored to participate in this segment of the high-level summit convened ahead of the 15th session of the Conference of States Parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity. I am aware that the objective of the summit is to mobilize greater support and enhance action at the highest levels of government, industry, academia, and civil society against biodiversity loss. This summit presents a unique opportunity for each of us as global leaders.
साला घूम रहा है तो घूम रहा साला ये सब बीमारी साला दिमाग खराब किया रहता
towards the development of the
हाँ,
post-2020
घूम रहा ना देख रहे हैं सर्वर नेटवर्क बिक रहेगा तो यही सब साला लटर पट
Indeed, negligence in renewing our commitment to hold the ongoing destruction of nature-based solutions will seriously threaten our collective existence in the post-coronavirus era. I am concerned that the attainment of national developmental priorities as well as internationally agreed developmental aspirations would be hampered if the critical value of biodiversity and ecosystem services are not recognized and appreciated by our citizens. Nigeria, like other countries, has a wide array of rich and valuable national heritage that include impressive network
plants, wildlife, and forestry. Regrettably, most of the indigenous flora and fauna commonly found within the country are becoming endangered and facing extinction. To reverse this situation, we have developed the National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan as an enabler for integrating biodiversity consideration into sectoral and cross-sectoral policies, plans and programs at all levels of
हाँ हेलो हाँ भाई हाँ आ रहे हैं यहाँ फंसे हुए हैं आ रहे हैं फंस गए हैं एक काम साला रहे तब तो अकेले दम पे साला कूद रहा है कौन चीज है सेठ हो ये करो वो करो साला अकेले सोडे कहानी
बोला
और कुछ
चिप्स
बोलिए उधर दूध का जमा भी करना है
समझो ना क्या हम बोला कि गलती किसकी तू पड़ा के हमारी घर की गर्जिया को पता कैसे
और कौन सी
चिप्स
कौन सा हरा वाला
माता तो गर्जियन को पता चलता कि मेरा बाल बच्चा बदतमीजी की से
हम मार रहे हैं लेकिन हाँ इतना जरूर बोलेंगे कि तरबियत की कमी
आप भैया बुलाओगे हम बुलाओगे क्या बाल बच्चा कर दूंगा बस उसका बेचारे बूढ़े हो गए नाती होता कौन सुनने वाला
साला मारा फिर रहा होगा हकीकत बता रहे हैं आप बोल रहे हैं मारा फिर रहा होगा एक काम होगा नहीं साला खाली बतौलेबाजी
नहीं नॉर्मल गलत है ना बड़े छोटे का तमीज होना नहीं चाहिए
हाँ अगर हम बोला तो ठीक है बोल सकते हैं
चले बाबू
दूध वाला देना पड़ेगा दूध छूट जाएगा तुम्हें दूध का देना पड़ेगा ना दूध छूट जाएगा
पैसा
तो वो साला अलग बुला रहा है तो हो पहले तो हम घट रहा किसी को कुछ पूछ नहीं हम ये सब करेंगे तो फिर फायदा का वही स्टेज में कौन सा चीज नहीं आएगा कोई चीज नहीं कैसे अमेरिका है रसिया को बढ़ा के पीछे हो गया हमको बढ़ा के सब पीछे हो जाएगा
पहुंचावे जाना है।
पहुंचावेंगे ना, पहुंचावेंगे तो सारा वो वाला टाइम निकल जाएगा, उस टाइम वापस नहीं आएगा। कौन देखने वाला? रात में वही झांकी मारेगा कोई सामने जरा सा, जब थक हार के सब तरफ से आ जाएगा तो इधर झांकी मारेगा। आदमी का दिमाग ना भूखेगा, टेंशन ना रहेगा। शाम में आके 2-4 आदमी आके भूख आवेगा, जरा सा कर दीजिए उनका भी, आदमी का दिमाग तो टेंशन में रहेगा। सलाह सुबह से साला कुछ नहीं था, शाम में साला भूख आऊंगी, आदमी का दिमाग टेंशन में ना रहे।
बिस्किट दे दीजिए, पार्ले जी। पार्ले जी
दे दीजिए।
कितना है?
पाँच वाला नहीं है कि तीन वाला?
कितना है? 5
पाँच वाला।
अरे हाँ यार, दुकान पर अभी क्या है? सब नाम कटवा लिया है, क्या है इसमें? चलो फंस गए हम। सामान खत्म हो गया। चले जाएंगे 3 बजे में। है सामने पता नहीं।
जुम्मा को लगे और ज्यादा तो
हाँ
जुम्मा को और ज्यादा
CST 25 21 CST first hearing it. इसमें तो तीनों आदमी को जो नाम हुआ था ना
हाँ आवेगा ना खाना आवेगा वो एडिट कर रहे हैं ऐसे ना आ रहा
है
एडिट करना पड़ रहा है ऐसे नहीं आ रहा है
कर रहे हैं ना
हाँ वही तो कर रहे हैं जरा सा झमेला है
यही वकील है। सपर डेट दिए है का नहीं
सालों ऊपर से नीचे आ गया।
चीज पासवान तो आ गया ना। हम लोग का नाम नहीं आएगा। फिरोज मीर नासिरुद्दीन, उसके बाद अजहर, आमिर साहब, तीनों है ना। कल्याणपुर SC स्टेट। अच्छा, ये अजहर साहब दिखा सकते हैं कि नहीं?
भाई तो हम ना बता सकते हैं
हैं?
क्या मामला है आप लोग का ना, ये हम थोड़ी बता सकते हैं भाई। आपका क्या अंदरूनी मामला है आप बेहतर जानिएगा ना, हम कैसे बता।
पुलिस स्टेशन 5 नंबर।
साला बाप।
केस हिस्ट्री ये वक्त ले लेना मैं अब कह रही थी
साला इतना मेहनत के बाद अब साले लटक दब रहा नहीं आ नहीं रहा क्या साला टकता है पता नहीं यही काम नहीं कर अब मेहनत साला सेव नहीं होगा साला दिमाग खराब
नहीं जाना
अब साला आगे पीछे नहीं बढ़ रहा है साला ने सब साले सब हो रहे हैं काम इसमें हो रहा है वो साले नहीं हो रहा है सेव हो जाता है खत्म कहानी
बहुत मोटा
थोड़ी